Mm, mm. Am I live for real? This looks like it's live. Gosh. Mm. Doritos are so good. Here I am. I'm about to try and give good medical advice. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Cheers. And I'm here. I figured I'd just get my. I hadn't had lunch. And figured I'd get my mouth and tongue and lips ready. Chew on a Dorito, chomp a Dorito or two or 10. Before I know it, I got one of these little bags here. Gosh, I'm afraid to pick it up. I'm going to have to go in on it and chomp on some more. I couldn't stop. I planned on doing this live cast video. Stay hydrated, you stoners. Using that devil's lettuce, having sex and listening to rock and roll. Both quite fun, right? If done properly. Um, but yeah, as I digress, got caught up in some Dorito action. My med school personal favorite when I was studying for step 1 and step 2 exams. I remember I'd get me a Starbucks coffee because you're sitting down on your ass, you're studying, okay, for hours. Take a life altering test, which will determine what sort of residency you get into. So my thing was, I love me a cup of coffee and Doritos. Just my favorite thing. Just felt like the best reward. Just felt like the best reward for when you're just sitting down, just studying these big books for hours. So, yeah, very nostalgic. But yeah, folks, Dr. Dan in the house. Nice to join you. Trying out some new gear here, seeing how that's working. This microphone is actually redundant on this. We'll get rid of that sucker. All right, I think I just destroyed it for no reason. That was dumb. Sometimes doctors do dumb stuff. Okay. I try not to, but hey, stuff happens. People are human. But folks, I wanted to just dig into a little bit more of the loosey goosey. I want to get rid of this light. I don't like all that backflash. Will that work, folks? Whatever. If y'all come to complain, I'll take note of it, and I'm trying to up the YouTube game and just make the aesthetic of the videos a little bit better, sound a little bit better if I can figure out this damn clamp on this microphone. Sucker. Gonna leave a Amazon review. Actually, you've done pretty well. All right. Cool. Leave you some stars. This arm thing sucks. But folks, so I wanted to get into a little bit just broadly talking about cannabis, using cannabis products just as some mental birthday cake for those tough days. All right. Long story short, the TLDR, too long, didn't read. Bloggers out there, if you make it too long, people aren't going to read it. If you have ADD conversations like mine on your YouTube studio, people might not listen. But weed is really, really good for getting over those kind of hump days. Like a hump day like this, tough Monday, tough Tuesday. You can have a tough Saturday or Sunday. You know what I mean? Sometimes the weight of living a modern, responsible life causes you anxiety. There's a lot of stuff that can be unpredictable in life. And those things that just come up poof out of the blue, ad hoc, all of a sudden, those things can jar us and throw us out of the synchrony of our regular day. And when things do that, we sort of feel like a deer in the headlights, and we don't know how to go on the decrescendo of our system to make it go down when we experience a lot of anxiety, acute anxiety, that fight or flight response. When our adrenaline is high, it's oftentimes difficult to force that sympathetic response, your adrenaline response. It's difficult to consciously override that and just make it go away, or a sad day. It's not always that fight or flight response. It could go quite the opposite way, where, just from a biochemical standpoint, we don't have a whole lot of serotonin happy hormone, or the dopamine, all right? The chill hormone, two different things, all right? So that can happen a whole lot. And for those days, sometimes we just can't meditate it out of us. We can do other things. Cannabis isn't the only thing. Cannabis isn't the only answer. It's, by no means is it the gospel, grace, holiness, savior of all, though some may claim. I don't. But, for those who might be drinking from a toilet or living under a rock, they might proclaim that cannabis can do a whole lot of stuff that it can't. More power to you. All right. You have your own soapbox, get your own channel. But for me, I just like to be realistic about it. And even when being realistic about it, I can safely say that when someone is having a tough day, in doctor speak, a little joint isn't going to really come to grave effect. A small one. You know what I mean? Don't make it too big. Then you might be going in the other direction. You guys know I preach a lot of microdosing just because I know people they do have to be diligent with the time of their days, because they want to get their responsibilities done so that they can live in the modern life, and then at the end of the day relax like a primal person. Okay, that's I think that would be the ideal. I think for longevity and wellness, for those interested in living a long life, you know observing a careful balance between what you do as far as your vocation so that you can earn money to keep a roof over your head. Those things are going to come with a degree of scheduling. And once we schedulize ourselves, it means that we're on the clock, and it means we have to hurry. And with that hurried comes hurried decisions. All right. It's just a corollary of one another. All right. So I think when we're coming and going with the tedium of our lives and things that we're doing on schedule, and things just come up out of the blue, boom, blow out your tire, call from kid's school, kid bit another kid, call from the nursing home from a demented mother or father, they attacked a caregiver, right? Those things happen in real life. Boom, you get served with divorce papers. Those things happen in real life. So oftentimes when we're confronted with these situations that cause internal friction, sometimes we don't have the natural intestinal fortitude to combat them just naturally through a series of deep breathing and peaceful walking and self-observance, that sort of thing. Some people are not interested in those things, right? They just don't care. I like that kind of stuff. I think it's a good idea. But that's for me. That's bias. That's just me personally. Well, half bias, half professional. But still, nonetheless, I think it's a good idea, folks, to for those that don't get far enough with meditation in order to combat acute stress. If they don't get far enough with meditation, a brief outside walk, running some essential oils, that sort of thing. If they don't get far enough with that, I certainly think cannabis, when dosed just normally, I think people out there who have dosed cannabis a few times, they know what the chill dose is. It's not hard to find out. Okay. But for those who are new to it, I'm always welcome to introduce them to it and try and open the door to a different way of thinking and a different way of addressing our regular sort of daily lifestyle related ailments. Okay. In terms of just looking at those things, acute stress, trouble with alimentation, as far as like nausea, appetite, dealing with, you know, what I would call chronic pain, chronic low to mid-grade pain. I think those are things that we can look at, and from the perspective of not having to use hardcore prescriptive medications to treat them. We can use things like cannabis, other alternatives. Cannabis, if I can iterate this, sometimes I say it and I'm not sure if I say it enough. Cannabis is but one means of natural therapy, right? I'm in this business because I'm a physician who understands a great deal about the endocannabinoid system. And I've decided to make that my career switch now because I think it's a more sustainable thing to talk about with patients, and at least to just set the stage so I can get inside someone's ear so that if we need to talk further about sustainable lifestyle habits, I'll already have their attention. Let me just now something that has my attention. I just want to plug in my computer. Pardon me, folks. Boom. Thank goodness for editing, right? Editing staff. Thank you so much. Business owners, if you want to play around with editing your own videos, you're more than welcome. If you really pay attention and you want your business to be found online, get a good SEO company. The only reason why I won't big up my SEO company publicly is because love you guys, my my band of CT, right? Love you guys. Got to throw you out there, but can't. The SEO folks, business owners. I was talking about how I got into this business and why I do cannabis medicine, regardless of the field that you go into. If you have an online business, it behooves you to get a good SEO and marketing company. All right. I'm not a business guru, but I figured that one out early and have been quite grateful for it. SEO. It's like a colonoscopy, not a thing you want to do yourself. All right. So there. Moving right along. When I talk to patients, I like to make colonoscopy references because people always catch their attention when you refer to the anus and bowel function. For some reason, it's just one of those neurolinguistic programming things that just seems to just wake people up. So anyway, yeah, folks, I got into this because this is a more sustainable way of doing life if one has it in their interest to live long and not be ultimately dependent on prescription medications if you don't have to be. Talking about things like cannabis get people's attention because we had poor information first that related to cannabis possibly being toxic, in which it's not. It's not toxic. It's not toxic to our nerve cells. I'm not going to go on and cite articles, particularly in this live cast, but basically, many studies have looked exactly at the neurologic function or basically how cannabis responds to or how nerve cells respond to cannabis when placed in a cannabis medium. Long story short, they grow. All right. They're trophic. So cannabinoids are trophic to nerve cells and all cells. So cells are not going to die when you put them in a cannabis medium. Long-term cannabis users don't otherwise, they don't have an excess of cardiovascular death, earlier death relative to non-cannabis users. Okay. And I talked about that in an earlier live cast, and I cited, I believe it was the Cardia study, capital CARDIA. Okay, so I'm not going to get into a whole lot of the granulars of that today, but suffice it to say that we can live even in today's modern times where there's a preponderance of dependence on prescription drugs with the intent to live longer. What we're finding, even in today's modern Western society, you can become a centenarian and live to 100 without having to take prescription medications or very little, maybe an aspirin, something like that, maybe a arthritis medication, maybe not. You don't need it. But that's the thing that I'd like to raise awareness to. And that's the reason why I got into this, so that at a very minimum, even if I only see a patient once or twice and their intent is to get certified, as having a qualifying condition to obtain legal cannabis, we would have already started the discussion about their symptoms and what's going on with their medical history, and being able to talk about just the strategy moving forward in general, the broad picture for sort of their ideas for what they have in mind for living long and enjoying a long, happy life, right? Quality of life years. It's my favorite metric, all right? Dictates whether or not my career has been successful as a physician. How many years gained from patients coming and seeing me? Years of life, quality of years life gained, all right? Better than money, okay? The time you have Some people have it messed up. I won't get into that, but long life, really good idea. Good to have it if you're lucky and diligent enough. So I talk about those things. That was my reason for getting into this sort of game. I wouldn't recommend other doctors really going in this direction to do cannabis medicine because there's a lot of difficulty, A, in running your own business, and B, keeping ahead of the pace of how things work in the cannabis industry. All right. It can be quite stressful because you can't advertise like normal other businesses, including other medical offices. So there's a lot of hurdle in getting into this sort of business and lasting is the hard part. That's been the hardest thing, the hardest challenge. Thank goodness we provide a good service at a very, very fair and very competitive cost, and we have great customer relations. But still, even then, it's a quite difficult dollar. It's a quite difficult dollar. It's a fun job and it's an easy job, sort of seeing patients and talking about medicine. It's not like complicated Roux-en-Y gastric pipe bypass surgery. Okay, it's definitely not like a Whipple procedure. Won't get into that. But it's a cool, easy day's work while you're working the doctor part. The ownership and running of it part is far more difficult. So not a route that I'd recommend for the week. But yeah, guys, listen, thanks for tuning in. I think I've gone over a little bit of time. I really just wanted to test out the sound equipment and just talk a little bit about cannabis for the tough days, and really open up people's minds, people that might not have considered a thing like cannabis. I'd really just like to talk more about what it's about, even if you don't have intent on using it or getting a card. You might have people in your family that do. Chances are good you have someone in your family that does use it, and maybe if you just wanted to learn more about it so that you and that person could have an even discussion and not have ill will, then that's really what I'm here for. I try not to make it overly political in terms of the topics that I talk about. Sure, politics comes into it, but I'm no politician. I don't have a background in that sort of thing, so I'll leave that to the experts. Religion, well, no, not about to jump into that one. All right, I could smell what I'm stepping into right there, so I'll leave that one well alone. What I like to focus on, folks, is just really keeping it science, really keeping it objective. I enjoy reviewing peer-reviewed literature. That's what I do with the great majority of my day when I'm not attending to business-related activities and seeing patients. I do like to read peer-reviewed literature in addition to other non-medical type things, but that's where I draw my data from. All right, I look at databases like NCBI, NIH, that sort of thing. A lot of publications from the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, um, also known as PNOS. So, yeah, folks, I like to dig into this stuff that doctors are reading, so that when I present information, it's just not subjective stuff that I dreamed up in my little silly head. All right, I'll leave that to my own imagination. And when I'm here on work time, I try and keep it really objective, so that if people have a question about the information that I'm presenting, there's always a reference that they can go and check and verify for themselves, so they'll know that the original idea, whatever, it wasn't from me, and it's been reviewed by other people who are expert in the field. So that means a lot, right? I think that counts for something with regards to credibility. So that's what I'm really aiming to do with this channel. And that's really just the goal in general, as far as my role in cannabis medicine. So anyway, I'll try and make sure the videos look a little bit more professional from here. I'm still getting this damn wire. I could fool with this thing all day and I'd still look silly, even if I got it all the way fixed. Look at that, worse than before. Anyway, folks, again, thank goodness for editing. Maybe I'll just get the wireless deal next time. All right. Maybe I'll just lose this. There. Think I can still hear myself. I think it's just Vane having the little earphones on. I think I just wanted to hear myself. Folks, listen, have a happy and safe rest of your week. Be kind to each other. Drive safe. Treat your life lovely, because it is. All right. Y'all enjoy the rest of your Hump Day Wednesday. Have a great week. Bye.